It's time for
DodgerHeads.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the DodgerBlue.com postgame show. My name is Matthew Moreno. I'm filling in for Jeff Spiegel, and joining me, the usual Sunday night staple, Anthony Witrado. Anthony, I always enjoy getting to do these with you, whether it's a Sunday, Tuesday, whatever night or day, if we do kind of an impromptu show. But I think nothing against you. I think I'm going to have to talk to Jeff, though, because I'm filling in for losses way too much.
Yeah. A lot of people are doing shows around losses way too much. I think is the moral of the story here. This team is in a bad way. This team is not a good team right now for several different reasons. You can point to a lot of different things, but the matter of the fact is today they're a bad baseball team right now. It doesn't mean that they're going to be bad forever. It doesn't mean that they're going to be bad next week, but they are not playing good baseball right now. And they have not been for a while. And we were hoping that the All-Star break would sort of recalibrate them, let them give them a chance to reset. And it's essentially just been more of the same from this team. So yeah, frustrating series, frustrating day. Not a whole lot more that can be said just about the general overall feeling, I think.
Yeah, definitely, frustrating stretch, an extended stretch at this point. They snuck in 2 wins before the All-Star break, but as you mentioned, like the that time off hasn't at least amounted to positive results right now. I want to thank everybody who is joining us, as Anthony and I just alluded to. Like, we know that there is a lot of disappointment with how the Dodgers are playing, anger, frustration, all the above. I have seen, if you're with us on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, I've seen a lot of familiar faces in here already. Maddie Mann, Laura, BC, Amanda, and several others who I know are with us, whether it's a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, win or loss. Our I don't want to call you guys our supporters, our audience, our followers, that's probably a better way of putting it, show up, and we can't express to you guys how much that really means to us. And it's important for, DodgerBlue.com as we continue to try to grow the website and our different, whether it's the podcast channel on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever else you get it, or our YouTube channel, which, speaking of which, if you are with us on YouTube, you have heard us alluding to, we're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. That is still obviously our goal. But before we could get there, we need to reach 90,000. And we're on the doorstep of that. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please be sure to do that. Once we get to 100,000, we're planning some definitely one big giveaway, maybe a second one, just to kind of reward everybody who has been with us and stuck through the good and the bad, which right now it is unfortunately plenty of bad. But like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you're listening on podcasts, also subscribe there, rate, review, and then come check out our YouTube channel. These live shows are fun. We interact with you guys as much as we possibly can. So do that. And so that's it for that stuff. As Anthony mentioned, obviously we're going to discuss the current play of the Dodgers, the extended stretch that they've rut, if you will, that they've been on. We're going to specifically also touch on some interesting comments from Clayton Kershaw in the clubhouse tonight, and what Dave Roberts said yesterday and what happened today with Mookie Betts not just returning to the lineup, but now he's the new leadoff hitter. And Anthony, I don't know, we'll get into it later, but a lot of it reminded me of the permanent for now wording that Dave Roberts used to describe Mookie Betts playing shortstop. I feel like we're in that similar boat now with him in the leadoff spot. And then, of course, we'll leave time for questions there at the end. But we got to lead with it. It's been ugly. Dodgers have played the Brewers 6 times this season. They're done with the season series. The Brewers won all 6 games. When the Brewers swept the Dodgers at home in Milwaukee, it was the first time they'd ever done that. Now they come to LA out of the All-Star break, sweep the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. And this is the first time that the Dodgers have ever been swept in a season series by the Brewers. If you want to look at it, kind of breaking it down in terms of season series, they were swept in the Freeway Series by the Angels, but that was only 4 games in, I believe, 2019. So you have to go a little bit further back. I have it in our game recap, so I apologize for not having it in front of me again. But it's been a while. The Cardinals, I believe, were the last team to sweep the Dodgers in a season series of at least 6 games. I mean, Anthony, where do you want to start? Where do you start, I guess, with this weekend, these last 3 games? I mean, in some sense, it was an extension of Milwaukee. In some sense, it was an extension of the past 3 weeks. Obviously, there's a Freddie Freeman injury. I forgot to mention that. We'll definitely discuss that as well. Where do you want to go kind of first and foremost with these last 3 games here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to sort of dissect if we wanted to get into it. But I think in general, the thing that stood out to me was the bullpen, which is thin would be putting it nicely. There's not a lot of trusted options there right now. And then aside from the bullpen, I think the Brewers, depending on how I want to look at it, the Brewers either did more of the little things around the margins to win games that the Dodgers didn't do, or they just played basic fundamental baseball better than the Dodgers did. However you want to decide to look at it that way. But the basic premise is that everything around the margins, the Brewers did better. And they're a team coming in playing with a ton of confidence. They're arguably the best team in baseball right now over the last month or so. Today's win tied them with the Cardinals at the top of that division. I'm sorry, with the Cubs. And so I think, you look at things like the misplay in center by Pages, the not scoring on the ball that got away late in the game, again, by Pages, those kinds of things. And they happened all series long. And contributed. But I think you look at those kinds of things, and the Dodgers are just a team right now, and teams go through this. It's not to say that they can't, with this current roster, fix those things. But right now, they're a team that is not doing those things. And when you have so many other deficiencies going on, lineup not hitting, starting pitching is hurt a lot. The bullpen is wearing thin. Then those things start to stand out a lot more, and the spotlight becomes brighter on them, because that's how you keep from extending losing streaks, and that's how you keep from making all of those other things so much worse and so much more impactful than they need to be. And we saw that this series, I think, with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I know you put it as winning on doing the little things and the stuff on the margins, right? Like, I think it was a little bit of both. And you mentioned the misplays today by Pages, Esteury Ruiz, also, an ill-advised throw to home plate. Go back to last night. Pages and Teoscar Hernandez both had a ball go under their gloves, separate plays, but a ball go under their gloves that gave up, in Teoscar Hernandez's case, at least 1 extra base, if not 2, because I forgot who hit it, but he ended up on third, where, potentially it's a long single, or, he's thrown out trying to stretch it to a double. And Teoscar did. I mean, he sort of owned up to it last night, and that video is on our YouTube channel. If you're so inclined to go back and watch these the post-game interview from last night's loss. I mean, as you kind of alluded to this, when you're a team like the Dodgers where you're already struggling, you can't then make those types of defensive mistakes, because defense is kind of the one thing you can sort of control, right? Like the hitting, we saw it with Mookie Betts in the 9th inning, hit it on the screws right at somebody.
Right.
Can't always control that. Defense, effort, focus, like that is certainly more within what you can control on a play-by-play basis and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with all the injuries, when your lineup isn't hitting, the extra base stuff like that, giving away an extra base, costly errors, things of that nature, like that does come back to hurt you. And I know, the Andy Pages, let's focus on Pages, on Dalton Rushing's infield single today in the 9th inning. How do you see that? Because I've seen both sides of the argument, and I can understand the kind of the two sides to it. Whereas on one hand, Dino Ebel it looked like he's pointing to third base, like, hey, stay here. I interpret that as like, don't fully round and go charging towards home plate. I think it could be interpreted, and maybe it was by Pages that he didn't speak after the game, as like, literally stop right on third base and become flat-footed. Like, I don't know. And even if, not that you like would disregard your coach, but if that's what the coach is telling you to do, like as the player, don't you have a little bit of feel of like, well, let me at least take 1 or 2 steps off of third and round it and see what's going on?
So a couple of things on this. Typically, what the third baseman pointing to the bag should mean to a runner is that you can come through the bag. I'm not sending you anywhere, though, as of right now. As of this moment, you're not going beyond. You're not looking to score here. So it doesn't mean like the second you touch the bag, you just stop on it. It means as of right now, you're staying on third, but the play's not over yet, obviously. The bigger problem I had with that play was that Páez basically stopped running about 2/3 of the way down the baseline. So he came off of second as the ball was bouncing, and he was in a sprint. And as soon as the ball left the infielder's hands, he looked to first and then immediately hit the e-brake. And then essentially just sort of kind of a little more than a walk into third base. So when that ball got away, he wasn't even looking at the play. Yeah. They had a kind of a panned out view of the entire infield when they did one of the replays. And aside, not only did he stop running on the play, he wasn't even looking at the play. And so in a situation like that, considering the situation, considering the number of outs, considering that he could see the play was in front of him, it was going to be a difficult play. He should have been busting it to the bag, and no one's going to backdoor him in that situation, right? Like it would have been the third out anyway. So there's no need to worry about the backdoor throw into third or anything like that. So you bust it to third, you round, you take a look at where the play is at, and then, then you go from there. He never even gave himself that opportunity because he stopped running. Yeah. And those are the things that we've been frustrated with Páez about in the past. He has gotten better. I think we should admit that he's gotten better at those things. There's been less of those mistakes, but they're still there. And when they're as often as he does them, even with him cutting them down from time to time, they're going to be game-changing type of mistakes. And today I thought was one of those.
Yeah, that's a good point about how. I think then it's fair to say how he approached and coasted, if you will, into third base influenced what Dino Ebel was kind of signaling to him. Not that Dino, I think, would have been, if Páez was running the whole way, I don't think Dino is like waving him home right away, because you obviously need to see what's
you're looking at the play ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But I think Dino never even he never gave Dino the opportunity. He never gave Dino that option to say, hey, ball got away, go. Because he was flat-footed at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, not to pick on Páez. That was just obviously a big moment in the game.
It was, yeah. And there were others, like you mentioned, the Ruiz throw was just a god-awful decision. But and I think that was one of the things Kershaw was upset about too. But it just happened that because of all the other dumb things that happened today, the spotlight ended up on that Páez play. And it was a costly one. It was.
We have a couple super chats here, and I apologize for the delay in getting to these. Bacon Tree says, pathetic offense, defense, or pitching, one or all of the above any given game. 2-10 in the last 12, 3.5 game lead in the division. Pathetic. Trevino 3 days in a row. Yeah, I mean, it sums up a lot of kind of what we led into. It has not been pretty, and yes, the division lead is down to 3.5 games now. Padres have also been struggling. I know they won today, so I think they had lost 2 in a row, if I'm not mistaken, to the Nationals, so they avoided being swept.
The Dodgers have been fortunate in this stretch that the Giants and the Padres have not really, kind of the way the whole season has been, they haven't really taken advantage when the Dodgers have been bad.
Yeah, and that's, again, like not to rehash a lot of it, like that's like a month ago when the Dodgers, maybe 6 weeks, were heading into their big stretch of playing teams in the postseason picture, or however you wanted to describe it. Anthony, you and I were on these. Padres went 2 out of 3. I stand corrected. Okay, my apologies there. You and I were doing shows, and people were telling us that the Padres were going to catch the Dodgers in a week span. It's baseball, right? Like teams sometimes cool off together, sometimes they go in opposite direction, and that's how the Dodgers went on a nice little run, and the Padres struggled, and that's how they ended up opening a big lead. The Giants ended up in second place in the division at one point. I think what's interesting now, and it's still a month away, but the Dodgers are a little less, about a month. Dodgers and Padres now, they have 2 weekend series back to back that are coming up that are definitely going to be interesting. And I know, look, frankly, the way the Dodgers are playing right now, those are probably not going to be pretty, but there's still plenty of time, and they'll be after the trade deadline. So maybe the Dodgers would, and that's maybe the biggest thing, not to completely go off the track from our plan tonight, but where are you? I know we've discussed kind of trade deadline expectations. I have a feeling you are probably we were together aligned, and like we didn't necessarily see a blockbuster. I still don't know if you would call it a blockbuster, but I have definitely shifted more towards, I think they make some sort of the impact move as opposed to not.
Yeah, I think the last time we talked about this, we both thought a reliever was the way they would go, but it probably would not be like a blockbuster type of move. I still don't think it's that. I'm with you there, but I think now the focus has become not just the bullpen, but trying to find a bat that can shake up this lineup a little bit. Probably an outfield bat, but potentially somebody in the infield too. I think they're going to be looking at all scenarios here. I think they're in a position now where they went in. I would say about 10 days ago, I think they went in thinking, look, we don't have a ton of need. We're going to start getting guys back, including pitchers. We'll be okay. We just need to tighten up things. To now where I think they're saying there are actual spots of real need that we need to address. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go get the best player on the market, whoever that might be, in a week. But I think it means that they need to be looking kind of at all facets, probably with the exception maybe of starting pitching.
Yeah, I agree with you. Our next super chat's from Laura. She says, Sportsnet LA compared the team's stats as a whole to Barnsley's. I missed that. That's kind of funny and frankly a little surprising for Sportsnet LA to do it, considering they're the home network for the team. And I can't imagine that was a favorable comparison. I know Barnes wasn't exactly tearing the cover off the ball. All right. Let's see. Our other super chats from Brody. It says, tired of seeing Klein and Trevino bring up Robleski to pitch out of the bullpen and move May to the pen. I have some good news, bad news for you, Brody. Dustin May is pitching out of the bullpen tomorrow. So that's good news for, you wanting to see him in that role. The bad news is Dave Roberts said that it is just a one-off, at least for now. I think we can put that, though, in the bucket of Dave sort of just kind of saying things in some sense, because he also, leading into the All-Star break, alluded to this plan, this idea, acknowledging that the Dodgers were going to have to find a way to limit Dustin May's innings at some point, because he's already set career high in that. He's already made a career high 17 starts. Everybody knows how much time he's missed. Anthony, where do you see Dustin May kind of maybe sticking in the bullpen moving forward?
I think this is a test case that they're doing. It's a trial balloon. I think they want to see how this goes, because as they start to get arms back, as Ohtani continues to extend, they're going to be looking for ways to sort of layer out that rotation without necessarily giving guys up. And putting May in the bullpen could be one of those, because he's a guy who can give you multiple effective innings, ideally, right? And which essentially, when a guy can give you multiple good innings, it's like giving you an extra arm in the bullpen. And so if May can handle that role, that's a huge win for them, because it gives them, again, essentially an extra arm without having to give anybody up. You just basically move him to the pen. You bring in whoever it might be, Snell, maybe Sasaki, he's a ways off still, but you know what I mean? Like, and again, as Ohtani gets extended more. So I'm fine with this. I think it's a smart move. And I think with Dave saying like, hey, this is just kind of a one-time thing, this is a test run.
I agree with that. And Dustin May in the bullpen sort of will maybe solve Brody's other complaint of Trevino and Klein. I think, again, Trevino and even Klein has had some good moments, and so is Trevino. I think Trevino was pitching for a third time in 3 days today, and so expecting sort of any effectiveness from him, like it was more you needed to kind of pray rather than, okay, he's going to be okay today. I think just kind of given, again, nothing against, as Daniel would say, he hasn't been on here in a while, but as Daniel would say, with all due respect to Trevino, like you're not really ever expecting him to be lights out per se, and pitching on his third day, like it was going to be an uphill battle for him. And to his credit, he went out there. Look, the Dodgers are trying to manage their bullpen. Alex Vesia, was stretched out a little bit before he needed to come out of the game. In a perfect world, some of the defensive mistakes aren't happening, and so Clayton Kershaw's not coming out at 4 1/3 or 3 1/3, whatever it ended up being. Certainly a much shorter start than you would have anticipated from him. But really, I mean, and I know people are tired of hearing it, but injuries. I mean, that's the name of the game for the bullpen right now.
Yeah, and for a guy like Trevino, like we don't want to see him out there 3 days in a row, and his effectiveness is obviously going to diminish the more you run him out there, but. It's not his fault. I mean, it's not his fault. He's one of the only trusted guys out there. And by that, I mean, like, he's been good enough to be one of those guys at this point. Like, the blame here, and the blame doesn't even go to Dave, I don't think. I mean, the whole 3 days in a row thing coming out of the break, you can quibble with that. That's fine. But, like, the point is that the options there are terrible for him at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. We have another super chats from Baseball Geek. Wants to know, who do you place responsibility for the lack of focus?
The players who might not be focused. There's these guys are adults. They're professionals. They've been playing this game more than long enough where it's on like a coach or a manager or somebody like that to come in and like start screaming and kicking down, Gatorade buckets and all that sort of thing. That's not how professional sports are played. And you want to lose a room, start doing that kind of stuff as a manager or as a coach. The fact of the matter is that these guys need to have some accountability if there is a lack of focus in these certain situations. And Dave alluded to that. There is, he sort of said that, I think it was today. Yeah. Where, he said, look, we need to be better in that aspect. And the fact that coming out of the All-Star break, guys are not there, that's a problem. That should not be the case with the mostly veteran ball club, where you come out of a break sputtering a little bit, had some good vibes going into it, and then you come out and you have a showing like this where it seemed like focus. And again, those little things were a problem.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I do think maybe there's some middle ground with both of the extremes, if you will, and I say extreme, and maybe that's not the right way or best way to phrase it, but the extreme case of, the Dodgers a little bit of where there is something to being even keeled and not getting too up or too down with every single game over 162 game season. Like I do understand that. I do think that there are still opportunities where a manager or a coach or a player, and I think we saw it from Clayton Kershaw today. We're going to get into his comments here in a second, to maybe not flip a cooler, but to kind of say like, hey guys, like yesterday wasn't good enough. 2 days, this weekend wasn't good enough. It's a new day. Like, let's turn to sort of light a fire, if you will. And I think it can be done without, as you mentioned, and I know you weren't necessarily advocating, saying it couldn't, but yeah, I think that can be achieved without breaking down a door or slamming stuff or doing things like that. And I think with Dave Roberts, I'll end it here, we might have seen it a little bit because he typically doesn't go to the press, and not that he aired anybody out today, but in Dave Roberts' way, like how he handles things, like he did sort of like air things out by saying, yeah, it wasn't good enough. We need to be better.
Yeah. And none of this is to say that it hasn't happened and that it hasn't happened at some point already this season. I see a comment in here that says we have a beta manager. That's trash. And it's comments like that. That's the reason I have to say things like flipping over a water cooler or taking a bat to something, because the fans, that's the only, not all fans, but some fans think that's the only way to show that they care. Dave Roberts has the reputation for the way he has it, and it's not as an X's and O's, guys. We all understand that. It's as a different role in that seat. And part of that role is holding people accountable. It's why the veterans respect him. You want to lose a veteran clubhouse in a heartbeat, you don't hold people accountable. And Dave Roberts has had a hold on a mostly veteran clubhouse just about his entire tenure here. And so to say that he hasn't ever done that or doesn't do that or won't ever do that is flat out false. That's just wrong. It's a wrong assumption. Just because you don't see him doing it in the dugout doesn't mean that it's not happening. Also, there are different ways to go about this. It doesn't necessarily just have to be Dave. Maybe he calls somebody. Maybe it's Clayton Kershaw. Maybe it's Freddie Freeman. Whoever. Maybe he calls that person into his office and says, "Go light them up out there. Here, hit these points," or something like that. That happens in every organization, on every team. And if you want to call me a Dave Roberts apologist, fine. But I have the receipts where I've called for his job in the past. So they're on the internet. I'm a former beat guy. I'm a former reporter. I have those receipts in my pocket. So no, I'm not a Dave Roberts apologist. I'm not on his payroll. But to say things like that when you're not in that clubhouse and you're not talking to those players, that's just wrong. It's a misinformed or uninformed opinion that you've created because the guy isn't cussing people out in the dugout on camera.
Yeah, I think a lot of that sentiment of, needing to see Dave Roberts do this, that, and the other, I think it stems from frustration with the team and how they're playing. I think, the other part of the lack of focus question as well is, look, the reality, not to excuse it, but the reality is Esteury Ruiz would not be up on this team if there wasn't 4 or 5 injuries going on. And he's not somebody who is stuck around kind of at the major league level on a consistent basis. And so he is, I think, a player who then is more prone and susceptible to make some of the mental mistakes that we saw today. Obviously, with Andy Pages, we've seen it in the past, and it's part of, I guess, just a young player still sort of growing. And to your point, about Dave Roberts and his role and when he should or shouldn't speak up, and I did see some people commenting and referencing it. He did, gather that he has gathered the team when he feels that it is absolutely necessary. One of the cases was last year in Atlanta when Tyler Glasnow went to throw his bullpen session and shut it down before he could even begin. And he was then done for the season. And Dave, got all the players, got the team together and say, "You guys are still good enough." And it came out after. Yeah. So that meeting came out. And then well after the fact, during the offseason, it came out that Dave Roberts actually challenged Walker Buehler and said, we're going to need you now to basically be Walker Buehler of old. And I think we all know how last season ended. Now, I'm not saying that one meeting was the difference for the Dodgers in winning the World Series, but I think that it at least shows it's an example of Dave at least being willing to go down that path if and when it's necessary. Is the middle of July necessary? I think we're getting close to that point. I will say, if the Dodgers go and get swept by the Twins, or if they lose 2 of 3 to the Twins and they don't look great again, maybe Dave says something on the plane out to, although I think now that they fly the man. Well, but they're going to be flying out on third. If they, after the next series, if they still, don't have a good showing, maybe at that point you say, "Hey, we're on the road. Let's make this a good road trip. We need to clean it up," stuff like that.
Yeah. You also have to pick your spots. He did that, but if he's doing that every week, the guys tune him out, and then the manager loses his job. I've covered teams where the manager has tried that approach, where once every couple of weeks he lights into the team, and the team starts to hate him, and they start to talk about him behind his back. I've heard it with my own 2 years. And so you don't keep players' respect for as long as he has by doing things like that, but you also don't keep it if you don't say anything at all. And so again, we're not in there. So to say that he's just not doing it because you're not seeing it, that doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah. Another super chat from Baseball Geek clarifying, Matt just stated my thoughts. I did not mean going ballistic, not blaming Dave, but someone needs to do something. It needs to be done privately. So yeah, look, I think that does tie into, we're not privy to every conversation that is or is not happening. And so,
and in saying that somebody needs to do something implies that somebody's not doing something. Because Dave Roberts might light the team up in private, it doesn't mean that Lou Trevino is going to go out and pitch a perfect inning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those things don't always lead to immediate results, or don't lead to a guy who is not a trusted arm in the bullpen suddenly becoming a leverage guy. He's got the cards that he's been dealt. This team's not very good right now. he's not the guy out there swinging the bat. I mean, you want to quibble, okay, Mookie Betts is the only guy who got 5 plate appearances today. That should have been Shohei. Go right ahead, because that wasn't a decision I necessarily agreed with either. But all that other stuff he's not the one out there.
Yeah, I agree. Who was Baseball Geek, I think. Baseball Geek, I appreciate you kind of clarifying just to make sure that we were on the right page and doing so with a second super chat. Again, we appreciate the support from everybody. As a reminder, if you are with us on YouTube and you want us to answer a specific question or address a certain topic, we try to get to it right away. Super chat is definitely the way to go. We'll, as you've seen, we'll stop what we're doing and discuss what you've commented with. Sticking with the theme of frustration and wanting somebody to do something, I think maybe Clayton Kershaw was on the doorstep of it today after the game. If you haven't seen it, stick around on our YouTube channel. We have Kershaw's, I'll say it tongue-in-cheek, full post-game interview because it was short. A couple of the quotes that I pulled out here. He said, Kershaw said, quote, "I'm frustrated. We're all frustrated. I don't know what else to say. We need to win a game. No excuses. Just play better." Then there was a follow-up question, kind of generally speaking, generally asking Kershaw about the Brewers sweeping the Dodgers in the season series and kind of what he makes of it. And Kershaw said, quote, "I don't make anything of it. They beat us. We need to play better tomorrow. I don't have much to say, and I'm going to get myself in trouble. So let's just call it. Thanks." Anthony, what are you taking? Was this kind of the overall losing? I guess it's a losing streak, but the overall kind of the prolonged stretch of losses and play the Dodgers have had wearing on him? Was it the defensive mistakes? Maybe because there also was that clip of him when he came out of the game going to the dugout and throwing his glove and his hat on the bench.
Yeah, it's accumulation of everything. Because if they were a team winning, if they've been 8-2 in their last 10 instead of 2-8, he probably doesn't do that. He's probably still frustrated by certain things that went on today because he didn't do his job either necessarily. At least probably not to the degree that he expects it to be done. But I think it was just sort of everything rolling. The fact that this was a game that they could have been swept in at the time that he left it. And so, yeah, I think for him, this is a situation where he knows that things are bad right now. You know, he's not going to do this if this is just sort of a one-off game or something like that. You know, I think he feels it. And what that also tells me is that there's probably some tension in that clubhouse right now. And that's where that's coming from.
Yeah, that's the point that I was going to hit on as well is I think, and I am seeing people say, you know, good for Kershaw expressing this basically. I think at the very least, like if these post-game, I mean, the Dodgers clubhouse is interesting in the sense of it clears out pretty quickly. But players are still, you know, kind of changing, getting dressed as these post-game interviews are happening. So you have a couple different scenarios. One, as you mentioned, there could have been some discussions already amongst players with a coach and a couple players that, again, we're not privy to. Two, a player could have been dressing and hearing Kershaw say something like this, and it sends a pretty clear message that he's not happy. And three, or something is kind of on the horizon of, hey, like if this doesn't turn, then yeah, we are going to have, you know, a players only meeting or some, you know, couple one-off conversations amongst the position players or the bullpen group. Because that's another thing too, that we could take this 100 different ways. There is also, we've heard it in the past where the relievers all kind of work together before a game every night.
Yeah.
They have different, and it's come out in the past. I think it happened last season or maybe the year before. I don't know. Like one of the relievers will say, yeah, you know, so-and-so gathered the group before X game. And we kind of just all said, hey, like the injuries are what they are. Enough. It is what it is. Like we just need to be better. And that's it. No excuses. And then they went on about their business. Like this stuff could be happening. But yeah,
we tend to only hear about those things happening, Matt. And this may be part of your point. We tend to only hear about those things happening when afterward the results are positive.
Yeah.
Because those things happen and then nothing changes. And you don't hear about those pep talks or those players only meetings, you know, or things like that if the tides don't change.
I do think yes, I agree. And I think a lot of the time it comes out after the fact in the sense of, you know, Dodgers just clinched the NL West. You know, what the bullpen has been a big factor in that for the last 10 days. What changed? Like I feel like those are the types of or, you know, the NLDS, like you had the bullpen game in game 4 and then obviously winning game 5. Like, what was that like? Well, so-and-so got us. Like, they do come out in those situations, and I'm honestly okay with that. I sort of prefer that.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't think that it's a positive, and sorry, not that I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I don't, just broadly speaking, I don't think it's a positive when we hear, oh, such and such team had a players only meeting yesterday. Like,
right.
Have those and keep it in house. Like, that's a healthier clubhouse than, and I know that it's not gonna appease a lot of the people who are with us tonight watching this show. Like, we don't need to hear about it. And again, like, it goes to the broader point of, just because we're not hearing about conversations doesn't mean that they aren't happening. By that same token, it doesn't mean that they definitely have. Like, there are two sides to that, but I think we just need to keep an open mind to, it is possible that Clayton Kershaw has expressed some of this stuff, or kind of the team leaders in the clubhouse have had some conversations with players of, or at least dispersing message of, hey, like, that's not good enough, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think the point with this here, and I think we both agree, is that Kershaw's comments today were not the first time some sort of frustration has been put out there into the ether within that clubhouse.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time guys in that clubhouse, if they were within earshot, have heard that there are players on this team who are frustrated with the losing right now.
Yeah. Hepatitis See You Later says Dave could be flipping a table right now as we speak. LOL. That would be something. The Dodgers, much to the chagrin of Twitter, were having their annual family day at the stadium. So can you imagine a bunch of kids running around on the field and Dave is flipping over the toys they're supposed to be playing with because the Dodgers, just got swept? Hey, maybe you would send a message, right? To all the kids. The kids would then go home crying, and the dads would then kick into gear. We have another super chat from 300 GJW. It says, I really think they need to swing for the fences for an impact bat at the deadline. Yeah. So this is, we were just discussing this, maybe 15 minutes ago now in this show. Yeah. I am closer to the point of, I think that the Dodgers, do need to more so, like, so Anthony, let me kind of circle back to what we were discussing. I'll ask it this way to you. If you had a preference, let's say that Andrew Friedman decided, okay, we are going to make an impact trade, and however you want to define impact is up to you. It could be an ace, it could be, an MVP caliber, or it could be a quality. Like, it's up to you. We're going to make an impact. Would you prefer it comes with a position player rather than any type of pitcher, whether starter or reliever?
I would rather it be a bat. Yeah. I think is where I'm at with it right now, because I think the bullpen will get healthier. The rotation will get healthier. Potentially moving May there full time would help. So I think all of those things are sort of going to start to come into a better focus for the Dodgers, hopefully within the next 2-3 weeks or something like that. The offense, this struggle has been going on for long enough that I think it's a legitimate concern. Max Muncy's coming back, so that will help. But at some point, you have to assume the worst when you're trying to take an outlook on how to improve things. So that means Mookie doesn't really improve, Edman doesn't really improve. Those kinds of things. Freddie Freeman doesn't come out of it, even though all of those things. That situation is probably less likely than them improving some. But I think you have to take that outlook. But then you say, okay, well, who is out there that we go get? One of the hot names out there right now is Eugenio Suarez from the Diamondbacks. And if you say, okay, that's the bat we're going to target because we think they're definitely going to sell, he can play third, maybe he can play first. So are you replacing Max Muncy with him? Are you replacing Freddie Freeman with him? Right. Sometimes the market does not give you the things that you want just to fit your needs. And so assuming Muncy comes back and he's fine, and that you expect Freddie to come back somewhat to form, a guy like that doesn't necessarily help you because one of those guys then is down. Yeah. And it's Max Muncy was an impact guy in the middle of your order. So I say all that to say, I would like it to be a bat. It's not as easy though as just that.
Yeah. And I think with Suarez specifically, the Yankees have been tied to him pretty heavily, and they obviously have, I would say they have a bigger need at third base than the Dodgers do.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then whether it's Suarez or another, kind of prize trade candidate at the deadline, prices are already inflated. And if you have a bunch of teams interested, it drives it up, tenfold. And that's just like typically Andrew. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say typically, because Andrew Friedman has, the narrative is he doesn't make trades or blockbuster trades, this and that, but he has done it at the deadline. But I agree. And I did see, people in the comments suggesting that's what, yeah, I think the easiest path is an outfielder. And you go back maybe a month ago when you and I were discussing different options. That's what I pointed to, because I said, at least with an outfielder, you open yourself up. You have some flexibility, and it can be a left fielder because Michael Conforto isn't necessarily, although I know Blake was tweeting today that Conforto has been one of the Dodgers' best hitters in July. It's a low bar. It's actually true, but a low bar. Season as a whole, it's been a disappointment so far. So if you find a left fielder, then it answers that. If you find a center fielder, you move Pages to left and you're fine. So there is some flexibility there. But yeah, I mean, to your point, like the Dodgers aren't going to go and get a starting third baseman when Max Muncy's coming back. They're not going to get a starting first baseman and we'll get into Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman appears to have avoided a significant injury. There isn't an upgrade at designated hitter. I know Shohei Ohtani has also gone through his own little slump. Do they move Mookie Betts from shortstop to second base? I mean, maybe, but I'm doubtful. And even with that, like, it's not like there's a silver slugger, a Manny Machado type shortstop available at the trade deadline right now. So, and at catcher, like Will Smith, like he's there, and he's not even a problem. Like he's been immune to the slump so far this year. So, yeah, I mean, to go back to the super chat, yes, I think Anthony and I agree that getting a bat certainly makes sense. But as Anthony pointed out, like it might sound better or easier in theory than it actually comes to pass. Speaking of a bat, speaking of Mookie Betts, he is now the Dodgers leadoff hitter moving forward. Dave Roberts said at least until Max Muncy returns, and right now the outlook for Muncy is Dave Roberts. He's said probably a couple of weeks. I think we're looking closer to 3 weeks than 2 weeks. Although if Muncy is feeling healthy and the Dodgers are still going through it, I think it'll be closer to 2 instead of 3. Yeah, but we'll have to see. However that goes, Mookie's the leadoff hitter now for a couple of weeks, and this is obviously interesting on a lot of different levels. And where I'm going to start is Blake was at the game today, Sunday. I was there Friday and Saturday. So Saturday's game, Mookie's not in the lineup. Dave Roberts is getting asked about it. And he basically says, reading Mookie's struggles, reading his body language, this and that. Like, I felt that it was necessary to just give him a day off. Basically a mental break, not have to worry about things. He's been going through it. And he also says that he's going to basically be evaluating Mookie on a day-to-day basis. And if he feels that he needs another day off, then he's just going to do it. And although he expected him to be back in the lineup Sunday, it wasn't a guarantee. They were going to kind of just take things as they go. Fast forward some 12 hours later, and Mookie Betts is not only back, but he's now the new leadoff hitter.
Yeah.
I guess shame on me a little bit, because we've been through this exercise plenty of times where Dave Roberts says one thing and doesn't pan out that way. I still I'm shocked that this is the decision that the Dodgers arrived at.
I was surprised too. I was definitely surprised. If I squint hard enough, I can understand the logic behind it. And that logic being like he's probably going to see some better pitches hitting ahead of Ohtani. Probably the reality is not. I think teams are still going to make Mookie beat them. And because he's just not been capable of doing that for a while now. And so they would rather pitch him the way they have been than just challenge him because they're afraid to walk him and put a guy on for Shohei. So again, if I squint hard enough, I could sort of see the logic, but it's still fuzzy. The just dumb part of it is that you're taking plate appearances away from the one guy in your order that can do maximum damage with one swing. And we saw it today where came up in the situation and Mookie hit the ball on the nose, like you said earlier, just right at a guy. But the guy who got the most plate appearances is the guy who hits first. And that's what happened today. And in a situation where everybody in the stadium, everyone who's a Dodger fan, everyone who just cares about baseball and doesn't root for the Brewers or hate the Dodgers would rather have seen Shohei Ohtani hitting in that spot than Mookie Betts.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, look, like you've covered baseball long enough. So if it's funny how, the game always finds you basically. And
yeah, right.
It started off with, the Dodgers, the new lineup, Mookie struck out on 3 pitches, Ohtani struck out on 3 pitches. And it's like, okay, like this is just great. And then the next time Mookie's, 2-out single and then Ohtani hits a home run. It's like, oh, best thing ever. And then it comes, game is on the line and Mookie lines out. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not the most egregious change that the Dodgers could have done. Dave Roberts, I will say to his credit, he kept getting asked, like, are you considering dropping Mookie in the lineup? And he kept saying no. So give him some credit for being honest there. He just didn't disclose that he's actually thinking about moving up in the lineup, not going the other way, which, everybody kept calling for. What'll be interesting to see is, I mean, what for starters, like in some sense, yes, I agree with you. Like, I know Blake doesn't, he thinks lineup protection and construction is a complete farce. And
I'll say this.
No, don't say it. No, don't say it. I don't want this to be on record for Blake. So don't say it.
I won't say that part of it that I was going to lead with. Blake, you know what it was going to be. But long-term, big picture, it matters fairly little. But in a vacuum, it does matter. That vacuum being the one that we watched today.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's where, like, I think it's hard to really break it. Like, yes, big picture, like over the course of 162 game, outside of, the reality being the leadoff hitter gets X amount more at bats, per season. Like, that's the biggest impact, right? Is that change. Then if you want to break it down further, like, sure, there might be, call it 3 to 5 games maybe throughout an entire year where that decision sort of rears its head. And as you mentioned, it happened today. Because I do think, like, if Mookie does, get on base to lead off the inning, and then Ohtani's batting with a runner at first, like, I know Mookie's not a speed threat by any means, but it potentially, like, I believe that it does have the possibility to impact pitch selection, just natural stress on a pitcher. And so maybe they're more prone to make a mistake, and it leads to, a double or a single or something. So yeah, I think that, like, lineup construction can have an impact. I think how you worded it is appropriate. The other part to this too that I wonder about is also, like, Dave Roberts' explanation with Mookie and kind of, his struggles recently, Dave's recent explanations have been that a lot of it is mechanical and things of that nature. And I don't think moving Mookie to the leadoff spot necessarily changes that. I know Dave said he wants his mindset to sort of shift to just going up there and trying to get on base rather than thinking about mechanics. My question is, could it work the opposite way where, like, does Mookie, and look, he's a superstar athlete. He's won World Series. He's played in elimination games, this and that. So pressure, like, I recognize that this is going to be it might sound a little funny, but is it almost adding some extra pressure onto him of, hey, yes, now you're in the leadoff spot. We do want you to focus on getting on base, but now, like, get on base because you're our leadoff hitter type thing. I don't know if I articulated that properly, but does it create can it create sort of that angst for him while he's already in the midst of, a season and really his struggle? Blake wrote it in one of our articles up on DodgerBlue.com. Mookie's struggles really date back to pretty much a year ago at this point.
Yeah. And we don't have to dive that far back into it with all of that analysis. Again, you and I have done it on shows together too. But I think the answer might typically be no to your question, except that he is fully entrenched in this slump. And so at this point, I think, it could have the opposite effect. Mookie has always struck everybody who's watched him play for the entirety of his career as a mentally strong player. So I would bet against it, but I think the possibility is there that it could be, because he knows, he's talked about it now several times with the media about what this season has done for him mentally, or done to him mentally, and how it's been difficult. And so putting him in that kind of situation now, ahead of your best player in the league, could potentially have that effect. I'm with you. I understand the thought process there. I would bet that it doesn't, but I think that possibility is absolutely there. And for people wondering, as we talk about lineup construction and particularly in this case, overall on a season, a number one hitter will get somewhere between a dozen to 15-ish more plate appearances than the number two hitter. So again, over the course of a season, not that big of a deal, but in the vacuum, and especially in the vacuum that the Dodgers are currently in, where they're searching for any semblance of a consistent offense, it does matter that Shohei Ohtani, who is that best player, is getting fewer at bats.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I know people are saying, give the lineup a couple weeks to see how it goes. I mean, it does seem like that is the plan. I am skeptical that, like, part of me, I mean, I don't know. I guess like there isn't necessarily much to lose, I guess, if you go back to Ohtani leading off and Mookie hitting second, because he's already been he already was, demoted, if you will, last year once he returned. But part of me wonders too, like, if this lineup construction doesn't work, then I'll just say, okay, well, we're just going back. Like, does that then also wear on Mookie too? And I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. Like, I'm not saying that this is definitely going to, exacerbate his struggles, but I sort of feel like, fine, like I can understand the logic of trying to put Mookie in front of Ohtani and maybe, helping him get on base and this and that. But does it almost, like I said, have like, just add kind of extra pressure to, hey, you're now our leadoff hitter. You need to get out of your rut and get on base type thing. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. And again, I didn't agree with the lineup change in that way. I also didn't necessarily think dropping Mookie to seventh was suddenly going to make the lineup as a whole better or him better. I thought he probably should have taken today off too. I was a little surprised when he was in the lineup today.
Yeah, I did think the way when Dave said, I expect him to be in the lineup, but we'll see. Like, when he left that door open, I thought, okay, like maybe they're just going to give him, the 2 days and sort of reset and see how things go for the Twin Series. Last thing on this topic, then, so you said you didn't agree with, I know a lot of people were saying drop Mookie to seventh. Would you have just left the lineup kind of as is then and just, continue to bet on him breaking out of this? Or would you have made some change, just not dropping him all the way, to seventh?
I wasn't opposed to dropping him, like shuffling that middle part of the order, like between 2 and 5, especially when Muncie's back. Like even before Muncie got hurt, I was on this boat where I would have been okay with shuffling that 2 to 5 and just kind of playing with it a little bit more. Like dropping him to seventh is just, I'm with Dave on that one. I agree with him on that one. Moving him to the leadoff spot, I 100% at the moment for what this offense looks like, for what Mookie Betts looks like, do not agree with Dave doing that. I think he's trying to shake it up a little bit without dropping Mookie to the bottom third of the order. But it coming at the immediate term expense of Shohei Ohtani, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It'll be at least a couple more weeks of this, so we'll see how it goes. Another super chat from Baseball Geek 79 says, my wish list is Kwan and Clase for a catcher and prospects not named Hope. I mean, you'd be giving up a lot for both of those guys. I know I think Clase is under team control through at least next season, if not maybe 2028. But I may be getting him mixed up with another reliever. But that would certainly require a big haul. Tim G says it makes sense, especially on days when Ohtani is pitching, for him to bat second. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. This too shall pass. This is actually the other thing. Oh, and here's our admins clarifying 3.5 and 2.5 years of control for Kwan and Clase. So yeah, you're giving up a haul, and Hope might need to be in it. Going back to Tim, I should have mentioned this earlier. My initial thought before Dave Roberts, the lineup came out about an hour before Dave Roberts spoke to the media today. I did think, like, is this a dry run because Ohtani is starting on Monday and they decided, collectively, like, okay, on your start days, we're going to have you hit second instead of leadoff. And they just wanted to get that practice in today before kind of, I guess, not springing it on him, but doing it tomorrow. But no, it was, like we said, this is the plan moving forward for the next couple of weeks. All right. Oops, my apologies there. Let's see, what else do we have here? Freddie Freeman, kind of the last big thing from today. If you were watching the game, you saw Freddie Freeman take a pitch off the inside of his left wrist, immediately walked towards the dugout, had a brief conversation with Dave Roberts, and one of the Dodgers trainers was there and went into the dugout and clubhouse right away. Anthony, I don't know about you, but I immediately thought like, okay, like, well, he just broke it. Like something serious is happening. X-rays are negative, fortunately. So he's day to day. Do I dare ask your confidence level with this? Like I know X-rays aren't completely useless, but we have seen situations in the past where an X-ray doesn't show what maybe a CT or an MRI ultimately reveals, maybe to be a hairline fracture type thing. But where is your relief? Where is your confidence level with Freddie Freeman moving forward?
I don't love it. It's not great, Bob. But I think that let's see what they have to say tomorrow pregame. Looking at the replay, like you could see that it was just like could not be a major thing, but probably something that they were just being careful with. Or it could come back that it's okay. It's a little worse than we thought initially. I think both of those things are currently on the table. It did not look like, okay, he's out for the next 8 weeks. But then again, we're looking at the replays in slow motion. So yeah, I'm exercising my right to hold judgment until I have a little more information here. But everybody knows how I feel about the initial reports from the Dodgers when it comes to injuries.
Yeah, and I did think like when it happened, and it could be like I'm not going to pretend like I'm a medical expert by any means, but I think to the naked eye and kind of feeling your own, like hitting him on the inside of the wrist almost feels like it was better than had it got him like flush on the outside, let's say his right wrist. I think that's because that's typically, or at least at the very least, that's what we usually see.
Totally.
That's where we see players hit, and that's
where the largest amount of damage could be done.
Yeah. So I mean, it is possible that it did get him, like that replay did show it got him on the inside of his left wrist, and so maybe just a little bit more of a flesh wound, or as the Dodgers officially diagnosed him as soon as he came out, was a left wrist contusion. Maybe it just ends up being a bruise. I don't think Freddie will be in the lineup on Monday. I think it makes sense to probably just give him, maybe even Tuesday off, like have him available to pinch hit on Tuesday, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, at least for now, it looks like because I was thinking, when Freddie Freeman, he's not somebody that comes out of games that quickly. I certainly was thinking the worst, and I thought, well, the trade deadline just got a lot more interesting for the Dodgers and their World Series hopes, of course. All right. We want to make sure we can answer as many questions as possible. So we're going to get to that point in our show. As a reminder, if you could just start it with the word question in all caps, that makes it easier for us to pick out. And while those are coming in, Anthony, I don't know if you happen to see here, Blake Snell made a rehab start for Oklahoma City today. He went 4 innings, allowed 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Snell threw 58 pitches. Dave Roberts said after the game today that he's going to make at least 1 more rehab start. The plan is to get him into 5 innings, and then the Dodgers will see after that. He also said he might make 2. He left over the possibility that Snell makes 2 rehab starts. I think if he gets to the 5 innings, 75 pitches in the next one, that he'll probably then be back with the Dodgers at that point. But we'll see. Blake Trinan also pitched today, scoreless inning, 2 strikeouts. But the interesting note, Snell in his rehab start faced Austin Barnes. And Barnesy got an RBI single. The only run Snell allowed was because of an RBI single by Austin Barnes. So, Anthony, Austin Barnes just has lifetime bragging rights over Snell at this point.
Apparently. Yeah, look, I think I'm really hoping that he gets to 5 in this start, because I think then they would just bring him back. There may be some concern there with them wanting him to get as much length as possible, because they know that he can be sometimes inefficient. But at this point, considering where his innings count is at, I give him 1 more outing and I bring him up. If he gets shelled and he doesn't get out of the 2nd inning, then fine. But beyond that, I think, if he gets them to 4 and you clearly still have stuff in the tank and you're just, okay, you know what, we're good. Then I say bring him up. I think he can only help at this point. So And Trinan too. Like I hope he is close. By like close, I mean like this coming series close. Like they need him so bad.
Yeah. So heading into this weekend, Dave said that he was going to pitch on Sunday and then be off for 2 or 3 days and then do a back-to-back on his rehab and then come back at that point. I agree. I think seeing Lou Trevino having to pitch a third day in a row today, I think the loss today, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe they sort of skip that final step of that plan and maybe have him back. I would say for the start of the road trip, because he pitched today. Yeah. He wouldn't be pitching to, like, they're not going to activate him and have him go back to back tomorrow for the Dodgers. So he's not pitching Monday.
Yeah, he missed the Twins series at home.
Yeah, like they probably would want to give him Tuesday off as well. So yeah, then at that point, I think they would just say, hey, just take the Twin series. And like I said, we're going to have you back for the start of our road trip. But yeah, I do agree with you. And I started thinking the same thing, especially, you need to figure out a way to kind of snap this losing streak to get out of this funk. And if you can sort of fortify your bullpen, then, maybe skip the back-to-backs with Trinan. They did that with Evan Phillips, which, I mean, maybe it's not a good example considering what ended up happening for him.
Yeah, totally a different situation though. Yeah. But yes,
there were injuries. I think Trinan going on the IL actually with his forearm issue ended up moving up Phillips' timeline a little bit. He didn't end up doing the final back-to-back with Oklahoma City.
Yeah, which is not what ultimately led to what happened to him.
Yeah, of course. I needed to cover myself before people started.
No, for sure.
The chat got on me saying, what happened to Phillips? So, all right, let's get into some questions. First one, admin wants to know if we've talked about the Dodgers record with and without Austin Barnes yet. And I think, let me see, I was trying to scroll for it as we were talking, but I couldn't find it. If I remember correctly, Blake put this up at some point. Yeah, so he says the Dodgers were 27-15 on May 13th, and Austin Barnes was designated May 14th. Since May 14th, they are now, and this was before, so they're now 31-27 without Austin Barnes.
Maybe he was the guy.
Numbers don't lie, Anthony. I mean, I think that's the only thing. That's the only thing to take away from here. All right, let's get to some serious baseball questions now. Matty Men wants to know, do you guys think Freddie will be out for a few weeks, even if he isn't hurt, just to get his body and head right?
If he's not hurt, I don't think so. But I understand the idea here, and I'm not against it. Not the IL necessarily, but saying, okay, you got hurt on Sunday. You're not going to play against the Twins. We'll see you on the trip.
Yeah.
I would be totally fine with that. I thought they should have done that already with him. I think I mentioned it the final week before the All-Star break. I thought he should have missed whoever they played against before the Giants and then came back against the Giants. Yeah, I was okay with that. And I think we had discussed it probably on the Sunday show going into that week. Which is, again, I thought they probably should have given Mookie the day off today. Like, I thought that would have been okay. So yeah, if he takes the next 3 off, I'd be fine with it. I understand the spirit of the question, Maddie. If he's not hurt though, like that, I would not sort of phantom IL him.
Yeah, I agree. And I think arguably the biggest problem with this is the Dodgers are dealing with a bunch of injuries elsewhere. And it's not like, you could comfortably say, okay, well, Mookie, Ohtani, Teoscar, like they're going to carry the lineup for these next 10 days. Like everybody's kind of struggling. And if Freeman goes on the injured list, I know Ryan Ward is hitting well down in the minors, but the Dodgers don't necessarily seem sold on him. So,
and your infield is already thin,
right? Who is replacing him on the? I guess it creates an everyday opportunity for Dalton Rushing at first base, maybe if you do that, and then Fiducia is the backup catcher at that point. But I mean, and maybe Dalton Rushing goes on a heater. Like we don't necessarily know, but yeah, I don't see this as a likely scenario if he's not hurt. I do agree though, Anthony. Like it wouldn't shock me if Freddie ends up missing this entire Twin series.
Yeah.
We have a super chat, so let's get to this one first. Phil says, what are some realistic trade options for a bat in the outfield? These questions are always difficult to me because you hear like Luis Robert Jr., like that's been a name that's been out there for forever, right? And Kwan, because the Guardians might be selling, is out there, but we don't always get every kind of available player is reported type thing. Here, our admin's helping with some. Cedric Mullins is probably best available, and then Luis Robert, Taylor Ward, Adolis Garcia, Jesus Sanchez. Anthony, do you agree with this list? Is there anybody else that maybe you would add to answer to Phil's question?
The problem is it's a seller's market. So some of these guys are going to come with really high price tags. Even guys who've been like just okay. So like Cedric Mullins seems like I would like that fit, but he's been an average offensive player this season. And I have a feeling a price on a guy like him is going to be inflated this particular season. And so like, what's it going to cost the Dodgers to get a guy like that who isn't necessarily an impact bat? Like, you know, and you could make the argument right now that Michael Conforto the rest of the way might be the same as Mullins offensively, at least, or a guy like that. So there are no real impact outfield bats right now. And anyone who is worth, a league average OPS plus or weighted runs created type of number are going to have 4, 5, 6 suitors. And it's going to be a bidding war for all those kinds of guys. So are the Dodgers and Andrew Friedman going to pony up for that kind of player? Probably not. And so I think that even though they're being linked to certain guys, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's real traction on any of those players. Like in a world where like, okay, you know what? We're not giving up many assets. Who do you want to go get? A guy like Mullins, Robert's probably off the table, but like Duran or something like that. Like, sure. Yes, absolutely. I'm in. But like, I just have a feeling that those prices are going to get very high. And all you need is one team to go, yeah, you know what? We'll give you that package you're looking for. And then the Dodgers either get kicked right out of the conversation or they have to put like hope on the table or something like that. And we're just not going to do that.
Yeah. We have a couple super chats now from Stockton Slap. Says, we look old and uninspired, wanted embarrassment. And he adds, 4 months ago, this team looked like a 150 win team. Stockton, I can appreciate the optimism. 4 months ago, they didn't look like a 115 win team to me. I know some people were predicting that they would break the Mariners record. Dylan Hernandez put out a tweet last night that I thought was pretty funny. He said he wrote before the season that the Dodgers could win 120 games, I think it was. And all they needed to do after last night's loss was go 62-1. So I was thinking, hey, you put together a couple 31-game winning streaks and you're right there. Like that would have solved it. Obviously, that job gets a little bit tougher now with their loss today. But yeah, I mean, look, I get like the old and uninspired stuff. I think injuries unfortunately matter. I think, yes, they are. Well, the players are a year older. I still don't know. I mean, with maybe Mookie's like, I don't think Freddie Freeman is first of all, let's not forget the start that Freddie Freeman got off to this season. He was having the best year of his career. Then he tweaked his ankle, and then why am I spacing? I feel like there was a second issue that he started dealing with, but I'm completely blanking.
He's had a couple of injuries this season.
The quad. The quad issue, and then just falling into kind of the slump that any player is sort of susceptible to. So I don't think, Teoscar Hernandez, like that could be, maybe an interesting case study, but I don't think that it's a matter of these guys are a year older and this is, they've dropped off this dramatically, but, time will tell. All right, let's see. GI says, for the right price, example, pennies on the dollar, would you kick the tires on Luis Robert Jr. to get the proper outfield alignment and move Pages and Teo to the corner? Offense has trended up lately. So I did see this. Luis Robert, I think he's hitting like 300 or something in this last week or 10 games or something along those lines. Do you assuming that it's not an overpay? Would you finally get Luis Robert Jr. onto the Dodgers?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Like, if you're paying, pennies on the dollar, like GI says, absolutely. Let's talk about any player at that point for sure. Yeah, I would be in on Robert for that. But the White Sox have notoriously set that bar to a point where it's almost laughable because I think they know no one's going to pay it. Like that's kind of been the fuss, around Major League Baseball with the White Sox and that player in particular. So, but if that were to go down, absolutely, then I'm interested for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see the White Sox selling for pennies on the dollar, as we were asked. I think especially if Luis Robert Jr. is showing any signs of life, and they feel like, oh, he actually, like, not actually has value, but his value is, higher than maybe the White Sox believed it was at last year or 2 months ago. It'll definitely just increase, I think, their ask for him. Jaime says, wouldn't Ohtani drive in more runs hitting third? Also, Ohtani is not stealing like last year. Excuse me. So I'm moving for him. So I'm for moving him away from the leadoff, especially since we struggle scoring runs early. Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, Ohtani could bat third, but also we just got done discussing Mookie struggling, Freddie struggling. Like, it's not like guys are consistently are going to be getting on base in front of him on a regular basis. That then also, as Anthony explained earlier, like the lower down in the lineup that you hit, the fewer number of at-bats you're going to have over the course of a season. Game like today, Ohtani doesn't even, I know, not that it's a silver lining or any consolation, but he's not even on deck if he's batting third in a scenario like today when the game was about to end. Yeah. So the stealing bases thing, I mean, he's pitching. And so that, like, I think it was just kind of expected that he wouldn't be running as much.
Yeah. And I think too, like, the people that they would put in front of him aren't necessarily getting on base either. So I think leaving him in the leadoff spot and hitting Kim, let's say ninth, gives him a better opportunity to hit with guys on base at the moment than it does like Mookie Betts hitting in front of him and Freddie Freeman hitting in front of him.
Yeah, and that's what we saw last season when Gavin Lux got on his nice little run. He was flipping the lineup over for Ohtani, and it obviously worked, even though I know a lot of people wanted Gavin Lux out of here. Yeah. Let's see. Stockton with another super chat. Any chances to get Seager back? Texas is cooked. What is Seager's got? 6 years left on his deal now? 5?
He signed in. Oh boy, I don't even remember.
Wasn't it 10 years?
10-year deal, right? Yeah. He's 31.
Yeah, it was 10 years.
Yeah, he's been injured. A decent amount, but he's still a pretty good offensive player. He's not a great shortstop. He never really was. If you're asking what are the chances, I would say like close to zero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Would you be
interested? From the front office standpoint?
Yeah. Would you be interested then?
I would be interested. I think he probably would be amenable at some point to moving off the position a little bit later on. Not now, not next year, probably not even the year after that, but like a little later in that contract. So yeah, I would be interested in that. I would, but I don't think it happens, and two, there are a lot of risk with that because he is going to cost you your top kind of prospects, and the Dodgers, I think, are leaning on those guys to sort of be their next core because it looks like those guys for the moment won't be like 4A kind of guys. They look like real prospects, and so I think the Dodgers are sort of banking on that.
Yeah, so it was 10 years, so he does have 6 seasons left after this one. I like Seager, but yeah, that's it's a bit much to have to sign up for 6 more seasons because of kind of the injury concerns, and those existed obviously when he was a free agent.
It's a big reason the Dodgers were never really in on him from in his free agency.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Seager, he's not been able to fully shake free of them. Alleluia One says, "What signals to you that they are finally clicking? For me, it's 3 consecutive games with 6+ runs, and it's not just one big inning. Death by 1,000 cuts again." It's a good question. I don't necessarily know if I have like benchmark. Like, it to me, if they won 3 games in a row, 4-1, 4-2, 4-0, and the at bats were better, I would feel like they were back. So, Alleluia, I know that you're in here with us a lot. This won't surprise you. For me, I would just have to go with the eye test of if it looks right, if it feels right as they're winning games, then I'll know that they're clicking and back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't necessarily need those big offensive outputs. It sounds like you're asking Alleluia, like for the offense to be finally clicking, right? So I would say some timely hitting, and creating those opportunities, right? Like you want 11, 12, 13 opportunities with guys in scoring position, cash me in for 4 of those, 5 of those, something like that. And then really starting to see Mookie and Freddie starting to raise that floor. They don't have to be superstars right now. I just need them to be raising that floor a little bit. I think that makes all the difference for this lineup if they can just be better.
Yeah. And you mentioned the timely hitting, on like Saturday was a perfect example of that. The Dodgers, they had was it a 3-run or a 4-run inning, whatever it was, to tie the game. But
4-run inning,
the go-ahead run, I think it was Teoscar, got to third base with nobody out, and the Dodgers they didn't score him.
Right. And that has been when they've been bad. They have had those kinds of opportunities, right? Leadoff doubles, things like that, and not been able to cash guys in. That's the sign for this lineup. They're not doing it well. And so not just creating those opportunities, but starting to cash them in, I think for me would be a huge sign.
Yeah. Another super chat from Stockton says, how big of a disaster is it going to be for this team to be a first-round exit after all the money spent this year? We can't beat the Brewers. It's sad. Look, I get the frustration with the Brewers stuff. I think like the season matchups, they're fun to look at. I fall into the habit a little bit, but it's also reality. Like the Dodgers, and they, especially with the Brewers specifically, where they played them basically, in back-to-back weeks. The Dodgers aren't healthy. And this was something that the Brewers manager, Pat Murphy, said after their win last night. Like, he didn't want to take anything away from his team, but he understood that, yes, the Brewers are hot right now. And the reality is the Dodgers are injured. They're dealing with a bunch of injuries. And so they're not necessarily the team you would expect them to be. So the head-to-head matchup stuff, like, you can take something from it, but it's not like everything. Yeah. I mean, if they get eliminated in the NLDS or if they slip to a wild card series and they lose in that, I mean, yeah, it would be a pretty big disaster, I think, in my book.
Yeah, it's frustrating that they got swept twice by the Brewers. But when they played them in Milwaukee, the Brewers were the hottest team in baseball. When they played them this weekend, the Brewers have been the hottest team in baseball still. So I don't think it's necessarily like they didn't lose 6 in a row to the White Sox, right? Like, so understanding that, it's still frustrating. How bad would a first round exit be? I mean, it would be terrible. Like, the expectations for this team were to win a World Series. With that said, they just won one last year. Now, we're playing hypotheticals here. So if you said going into that first Ohtani year, you're going to win 2 in his first 3 seasons, let's just say that, or 2 in his first 4 seasons, I know I would have been like, where do we sign that paper?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they won the first year. If they don't win this year, it's not the end of the world. It's not the window's not closed. It's just going to be disappointing. Absolutely. Like, massively disappointing. They went and signed Snell. They did what they did in the bullpen, all of that stuff. Massively disappointing. It's not the end of the window, though.
Yeah. And here, Cole's bringing up a good point. Oh, sorry, wrong one. He's saying head-to-head sucks, especially when you now lose the tiebreaker again. Yes, that is the biggest takeaway from, I think, these head-to-head matchups is that kind of deciding stuff. And I know Blake's been in here a little bit. He doesn't think home field advantage matters. Blake is wrong. It does matter. So that is yes. When you're talking head-to-head, this is where it really matters. Like, the win-loss really matters rather than, the reality. Like, at this point, had the Dodgers won today, sure, it feels good that they weren't swept, but is 1-5 all that much different than going 0-6 against the Brewers this year? Not really.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole home field advantage stuff, 50,000-foot view, it's sort of a coin flip, but the home teams do win more.
There you go. That's it. That's all we needed to hear. All right. We have a couple more here. I'm not seeing any food questions. So if you are disappointed, if you enjoy our food debates, maybe throw one in. If you're happy that we're not going to be discussing food, then this is the show for you. Stockton Slap. Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Back to that Brewer thing too. I saw somebody state a fact about the Dodgers player payroll and the Brewers payroll being, I think, $112 million. And that's fair. But for a team like the Brewers, where they have, if you look at any Milwaukee media over the years, they call Mark Attanasio a cheap owner. That's debatable given the market that he's in. Could they spend more?
Didn't he have a mansion out in Malibu?
He does. He's an LA guy.
Not that cheap.
Not that cheap. And could he spend more? Absolutely. But for a team like Milwaukee that's not going to spend, they have to home grow their players, which is why they're not in the playoffs all the time. They're in the middle of a really good run right now. they've also never won a World Series.
Yeah, there you go. Stockton Slap says all we kept saying is we need the break. Same expletive.
Yeah, I said this a little bit earlier in the show. Stockton Slap is right. It was probably some hopium that I was like, you know what, get us to the break. Maybe guys can reset a little bit and come back out and turn this thing around. Has not happened yet.
Yeah. I think I agree. I mean, I thought the break would help just from the standpoint of the Dodgers look tired. They're obviously injured, and so get them off their feet type thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would have predicted how they would have done the series. I wouldn't have expected that they'd get swept. I thought they certainly would win at least one of the games against the Brewers. But
they got swept and they didn't see the Miz. That is, I'm with you. The head-to-head stuff really doesn't matter too much. But you saw that Mizorowski was not pitching this series, and you went, all right, man, well, we can win this series. And then you get swept.
Yeah. All right. A few more questions here. Broman74 says, wrong move to move Mookie to lead up at expense of Ohtani. I guess he's asking. Ohtani leads the Dodgers in every offensive stats except batting average. Ohtani gets on base and scores the best in baseball. Is it risky? Yeah. I mean, we discussed a lot of the different scenarios and pros and cons of Ohtani being in the leadoff spot, or excuse me, of Mookie now being in the leadoff spot. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to completely rehash and bore people with our. Do you have any quick thoughts, Anthony?
No, bro, man. I will say I thought it was a bad idea, and I would hope they would stop doing it. They probably aren't going to in the immediate future. But no, I did not think that putting him in that spot ahead of Ohtani was the right call.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to understand. Steve saying, did Mookie having a leadoff hit bring Ohtani to the plate with a man on base? Mookie struck out.
They both struck out the leadoff again.
He struck out in the first inning, but then Mookie did have a 2-out single in the third, I believe it was, either third or fourth, and then Ohtani hit the home run. I don't remember. Mookie might have grounded out his next at bat, and then his last one was the line out that left Ohtani on deck to end the game. So
Steve might be asking this because the only time that Mookie is guaranteed to lead off an inning is the first inning. So that might be what the question is.
Yeah, perhaps. Steve, if you can add any sort of clarity or anything, that will help us. We'll try to answer that a little bit better for you. If not, we have just a few more here. Dave Luna says, what do you guys think of Ha-Sung Kim as a trade target? He has the positional versatility that would be needed and has shown to be a good player in the past. 2025 Tommy, basically saying he's 2025 Tommy Edman.
Yeah. I mean, I would again, I don't think this is a guy that I would be giving up a whole lot for. Where does he play? That's kind of that's sort of my first question with a lot of the infield trade proposals is like, what do you do with that player? He hasn't played any outfield. So like, where does he go? He's typically a middle infielder, taking games away from Kim. He's probably not going to replace Mookie at short for the moment. So, like it or not. So I wouldn't mind having him like just in general. But I think for the cost and for what the Dodgers need, I don't think he helps.
Yeah. Laura's asking, where do the Dodgers land in the power rankings tomorrow? So if this, Laura, I'm not sure if you're in here, maybe clarify, let us know. If she's asking about Bleacher Report, I'm going to say they're still going to be like top 2 or 3. Look, nothing against Bleacher Report as a whole, but these lists that they put out are primarily to stir up engagement and debate and conversation.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I think they still keep them like top 3 type thing just to upset everybody.
Yeah, they all do them. Yahoo does them. CBS Sports does them. They all do these. And I used to have to do them when I worked for bigger media companies, and I hated it. Every Sunday night I had to do them. they mean essentially nothing. Obviously, this isn't like college football, where they actually do have meaning. So I would say they're probably their fifth.
So that'd be dropping them down. Laura said that they were third last week.
Okay, then I definitely stick with fifth.
All right, we'll see. That'll be the big reveal. Oh, she's saying MLB's power rankings. I forgot that they put one out too. So they might, then I could see them dropping it down. I feel like MLB doesn't necessarily go for as much of the attention grabby rankings, and our admin is saying if they don't rank Dodgers in the bottom 20, they are shills. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see if the Guggenheim Bank was open on Sunday if they got it, the direct deposit over to MLB. So that'll be the true tell tomorrow. All right, last few here. We do have one food one. We have one annoying one from Blake. We have one good one. The good one is from Adolf Hipster. Kim played left in Korea. Why can't he replace Conforto permanently? So yeah, he hasn't played left field unless he did. I don't remember if he did in spring training, but the Dodgers have pretty much kept Kim up the middle. Shortstop, second base, center field. Dave Roberts the other day did just commend him for improving defensively at second base. He said he's also getting better in center field. Those just seem to be the three positions that they feel comfortable playing Kim in. I think some of it, maybe majority of it, has to do with Conforto was kind of I want to say big offseason signing, but they signed him for $17 million. So they invested enough resources in him that they want to, give him every opportunity out there. Obviously, after the trade deadline, depending on what potentially happens there, we'll see if, what Conforto's role is. And maybe at that point, Ha-Seong Kim has moved out to left field.
I think if they were going to do that, they would just put Kim in center and probably move Pages to the corner.
That's true. Yeah, good point. Yeah. Yes. Especially, I think good point. And especially with then layering in, Kim being a utility guy sort of at least caught me by surprise, especially once they traded Gavin Lux. The assumption was, okay, he's going to be starting or at least given, every opportunity to start at second base. And then it's like, no, we're going to play him at shortstop and also in center field. And then for a while, he was getting the majority of his time in center field, and it was kind of a rough experiment early on. So yes, that's a good catch by Anthony. I apologize.
And I agree with, I think, sort of the organization's take on him at this point is that to maximize what you're going to get out of him, use him in the infield because he's a better infielder. He's turning into a really good second baseman defensively.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Blake's question specifically for me, apparently, he wants to know which Dodger player would be the most likely to have a Lububu collection. Anthony, are you aware of what these things are?
Just very recently, I became aware of what they are. And so I am very curious to hear your answer to this.
I mean, I think it's an easy answer. I think
so too.
Kike definitely would have one.
That would be my guess. Yes.
I think just based off of, I'm not sure if these start. I apologize. I'm not sure if they originated in Japan or Korea, or
I believe they're Chinese, or I think they started in Hong Kong, is what I saw, because this is taken over the internet recently. So I think that's what I saw. So if you want to say an Asian player,
right?
I would typically go then with the youngest one that they have on the team, which would be Kim.
See, I was going to go Yamamoto because these are, I feel like they've become, in some circles, not mine, like fashion statement type.
You don't have one dangling from your satchel that you carry cross strap?
Not that I'm ready to reveal right now. Maybe on Tuesday's show. If the Dodgers win on Tuesday, maybe I'll reveal my Labubu collection at that point. I think Yamamoto would probably have one.
Okay, that's fair because they're like an accessory now.
Yeah, but I could see Kim and Michael. Thank you for this. A dumb question, Blake. completely agree. I don't know what Blake's doing in here with this stuff. Our last one, it's a food one, and I thought it's interesting. So let's see. Stockton Slap says, would you rather only eat a Whopper or a Big Mac as your only meal for the rest of your life?
That's pretty good. This is a good food question.
Yeah, I like it. I sort of stand by Whoppers. I think are a little bit underrated. I think it's a quality burger. Although I think a Big Carl is better than a Whopper, but a Whopper, it can be good.
Yeah.
But a Big Mac is kind of like a classic. Like when you want something like that, like there's no replacing a Big Mac.
I'll say, without diving too deep into the analytics on this, I would say Whopper. This is funny. I just had this conversation last night with some family. We were playing cards, and I don't remember exactly how this came up, but we started talking about a while back. People did test of like where they left out everyone's like signature hamburgers, every fast food restaurants, and McDonald's won/lost because their hamburgers lasted the longest. Like it was still technically edible, like after weeks being just sitting on a counter, because of all the preservatives that are in them. So yeah, I would say Whopper.
Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna go Big Mac because I think, as much as I just said, I think the Whopper is underrated. I think it would remind me of the Big Carl, which I don't think the Whopper quite is. So I would just think like, okay, this is okay, but I would rather have a Big Carl instead of this Whopper. So because of that, I'm going Big Mac. But this was it's close.
And for the record, for me at least, they're both pretty terrible. Which is why it's a good question. If they were both great choices, like
for like terrible, like if you're comparing it to like gourmet or just like even like
fast food burgers. Even other fast food or like even other things on those two chains' menus.
So what do you get? So if you had to go to Burger King or McDonald's, then what are you getting? If you're familiar enough with their menu.
Yeah, if I go to McDonald's, I probably just get like the chicken sandwiches or some, maybe McNuggets or something like that. If I have to go to Burger King, which I haven't actually been there now that I think about it in years, probably. The only thing I've really ever consistently gotten there is like the sub looking chicken sandwich.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, yeah, neither of those places is.
That's right. I haven't been to Burger King in a while either. Have you had the chicken strips from McDonald's?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't care for them. Some people have said that they're good. BC says he's having his free jumbo jack right now.
How do those get? Even though you get them with the loss, versus a win.
Speaking of, Michael K is saying haven't had Panda Express in a while, and a sad emoji. Casey's saying his choice is the double Western bacon cheeseburger. R.I.P. Carlos Jr. at Dodger Stadium. That was a great era.
Double Western would be a clear winner in that conversation.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like not even close.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah. Deuce says just spend the money and go to Five Guys. Not bad. All right. I feel like we've answered this one. We could try it again. John Chan says Five Guys or Shake Shack.
I'm not a big Shake Shack fan. Like it's fine, but I don't get what all the fuss is about. So Five Guys.
Yeah, I agree. I smash burgers just don't do it for me.
It's also not like I'm cool if you want to smash them. Like that doesn't bother me. But like you eat it and it's not like some life-changing experience like people might have you think.
Yeah, I agree. Shake Shack does have good cheese fries if you're able to eat them. Like
I have not had those. I'll have to keep that in mind.
But if you have to travel with them, the sauce, like if it gets to lukewarm, you're in trouble because then reheating it, not great.
Gotcha.
All right, that's gonna do it. I know I did see one complaint about food questions. Just as a reminder, we do spend an hour plus.
We're at hour 30 in right now. We did just like a few minutes on food questions. So.
Discussing baseball and answering the questions you guys have. And then at the end, if there are food questions, because Anthony enjoys food, I enjoy food, we enjoy kind of showing different, like our personalities, if you will, and not just having to stick to baseball. That's how we end up here. So our apologies to Jose, who didn't appreciate that tonight. And yes, so now I'm being accused of being big queso and being in the pockets of the cheese brands out there. But anyway, again, thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. As a reminder, go to DodgerBlue.com. That's where we have all our articles every single day, keep you guys up to date. If you're on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. If you're not, come check us out, Dodger Blue 1958. We're trying to get to 90,000. I know I mentioned it earlier. 100,000 is our big goal. For now, we're on the doorstep, so we want to get to 90,000, hopefully by the end of July. If the Dodgers can help us out with a nice trade or two to bring in, more eyeballs to our channel, that would certainly be appreciated. But if not, maybe tell your cousin, your brother, your sister, your parents, aunts, uncles, whoever enjoys the Dodgers to come check out our channel. We think we can be pretty entertaining while still, breaking down some of the baseball stuff. And as a reminder, you can find us on podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, all that good stuff. Rate, review, subscribe there. Even leave us negative reviews, constructive criticism. We're obviously open to. But yeah, that'll do it. Again, that's Anthony. I'm Matthew. We will be back with you guys, us two, on Tuesday night, and then Jeff should be back on Thursday, and then that'll be him and Bruce. So Anthony and I, barring breaking news, we will see you guys on Tuesday. And Anthony, I'll put you on the spot here. We'll go out on this Tuesday night show. Are we doing is it another loss or is it a win?
No, we're doing a winning show on Tuesday.
I think so too. I think so. It's the Twins are coming into town starting Monday, so we'll see. Hopefully it'll be better times in a couple nights from now. But again, thank you to everybody. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.